What does world-class real estate look like to you?
Try to combine old-fashioned traditional estate agent values, but with all the modern tech that can help you move that forward.
Excellent communication is at the heart of what they do.
Great real estate looks like strong leadership.
Consistency.
This episode is sponsored by Iceberg Digital.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the World Class Real Estate Podcast. My name is Worrall. I'm joined by Mr. Ian Macbeth, recording for the first time for a little while in the dark. Ian, well, it's dark up north anyway. How are you, mate? Is it dark down south?
It is, yeah. Last week was the first morning run with the crew with the head torches on. So, yeah, it's definitely full swing. I don't know when the clocks change, actually. They must be changing soon to make it a bit lighter. But, yeah, it's been raining quite heavily for the last 2 days. Most of the leaves are orange or red now. So we are full autumn, dare I say it, counting down to Christmas, right?
Yeah, we were having a conversation about Christmas marketing in our management meeting yesterday, and somebody said last week, 10 weeks till Christmas. So yeah, definitely in that sort of countdown. Feels like the market is that sort of autumnal market, if a little bit unpredictable, which we're going to talk about in more depth. But I don't mind getting up early. I don't particularly mind it being dark, and I think if you are an early riser, and when people sort of stereotypically say it is harder to get up when it is dark, those are the opportunities to get that little bit ahead of your competition. If you're thinking from a work-wise, or in my perspective, if it's routine, consistency, these are the days that sort of test it when it's all changing and what have you. So I've been up early, been to the gym, as I do before we record every Tuesday, and it doesn't make any difference to me if it's dark or not. But it was just noticeable when I was coming upstairs to record the podcast in the office here today that actually I think it's the first time that it has been dark. But autumn is here. It's raining a lot. The umbrellas are out, and that's kind of just the way it is in this country.
I think just watch your moods, with the team, with the kids and stuff like that. I think when it's dark a little bit more, you're not getting a little bit less natural light, from a sort of biomechanical side of things, without getting too deep into that. I think just watch the mood, like just get in the window a little bit more, get outside, if it's a lunch break and it's not raining, go for a little stroll, even if it's just 10 minutes, and just try and get a little bit more daylight the best you can, basically. It does make a little bit difference to the moon. Doesn't help with photography, videography and stuff like that. I mean, on this episode, we don't need to talk about that, but at the same time, on this episode, what we did think we would cover, some of the topics, some of the current affairs, if you like, across Facebook groups, industry press. So we were going to kind of really deep dive into the budget a little bit, because Rightmove are publicising that's having an impact. I think the Guardian's run that article, the Telegraph's run that article. I think it is a topic of conversation in the middle and higher end of the market for sure. Article on first-time buyers, which is quite interesting, which maybe means when we cover that, estate agents can kind of think about a little bit how they communicate with first-time buyers, because maybe there's a curve and a change in the new first-time buyers that are coming through. It's award season. Let's cover that a little bit as well, but in a helpful way, I think is key. And the Rightmove report itself, which we sent each other, you said you'd kind of digested it yesterday. I scanned over the top part of it and I was quite interested to see the statistics that were publicised, and then some of the local press run with it straight away. So got quite a few cool things to talk about, but I think what we want to do is like give some strong opinions on it, get off the fence, and it'd be good to hear what people think that listen as well. But hopefully it'll point a few people in the right direction. They get a lot of value from this episode, I think. So, yeah, that's the plan of action, right, for the next half hour.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with a bit of political commentary then, I suppose, and we can tie in the Rightmove house price index, because Rightmove within that house price index, I don't think I've ever seen it before, but they were very supportive of changes to the process and increasing housing mobility, I think was the term that they used within that, which I thought was quite a strong political message, and I didn't sort of have them down as making that sort of comments. What were your thoughts on that? Is that just them taking the positives out of a potential change to the process and trying to use their weight to push for them quickly?
Yeah, I think I don't know what Rightmove's PR stance on it or why they're doing that. Maybe they're trying to keep themselves on the side of a certain someone somewhere within political side of things. But I kind of get where they're going with it. I mean, there's two parts to the rumours, isn't there? And one part is what it's going to do for the public, and then the other part is what it's going to do for the estate agency listing process, which still includes the public, but it has a big impact on us. So part two, the process of getting the house on the market, I'm all for that. I think putting some extra T's and C's in there, getting some extra information, be it an upfront survey, some upfront searches or extra forms or information, mainly some extra paid commitment from a seller to list. I'm all for that. I think it's a good pivot. I think it's a good opportunity. I think it will reduce the fall through ratios that we have, which is still so high. And I'm still concerned with the amount of work that estate agents do for free. And I'll be a big fan over the next kind of 5 years if we could mitigate that, even to the point where estate agents can charge a decent chunk up front of the work that they do at different trigger points. So I'm all for it. I see where Rightmove are going with it, because they're trying to kind of highlight the fact that if those rumours did come into play, it would give a bit more security to the listing market, and for buyers as well, they would have a bit more security potentially from the seller. So I'm all for those policy changes, really. Don't know what your sort of view is on Rightmove's comments, or in general. What's your thoughts, Mark?
I was quite surprised to see them making that what is a political comment in the house price index, and I don't think it was once but twice within that article that they did that. So I was a little taken aback. But I'm very supportive of changing the process. We talked about it last week. I don't want to go over the same thing in too much detail, but it's a massive pet hate. It's affected my family recently quite traumatically in terms of a sale that's fallen through at a really advanced stage. And we almost, I think, can become a little bit immune to that. It always hurts when it falls as an agent, because you lose commission, but you don't always see the emotional side of it. And I've done so recently, and it's not very nice. It's not a very pleasant experience. And as I said last week, it's one of the reasons that we, I think, get a bit of a bad reputation. So if we can change that, great. My concern with it is I have no faith in the government to get it right. So I think it could go wrong. And I'm also concerned about when is the right time to make process changes. Now, we've got this budget coming up. It's been delayed. I was speaking to a friend over the weekend. Imagine having your role as being that to produce the budget and having to delay it by a month. That is just, in my opinion, pure incompetence. Their job is to produce the budget for the country. Imagine if you were late filing your accounts for company's house, you get a fine. It's as simple as that in my opinion. So I don't have a great deal of confidence in that. It also brings a bit of a fear as to what is going to drop in the budget and how that affects the market. Because if they try and change the process whilst the market is on a downer or at the bottom, then it's going to be a big problem for the economy, not just for agents, selfishly, for us as well, but for the economy. The housing market is such a vital part of the economy. If they try and do the right thing at the wrong time, as they did with HIPS, and make a couple of mistakes along the way, it can cause a market crash, which is, I'm sure, not what anyone wants to see. And that's my fear with all of that.
Yeah, it's two parts to it, isn't there? There's what it does from an economic standpoint, and then what it does from a policy and a process standpoint. I mean, if we cover the rumours, there's three main things. I sometimes find it hard when you see the rumours and how the press kind of paint them. Yeah. So I'll give some examples here of what it could mean. So the first one is tax on home sales over 500 grand. So effectively, well, what does that mean? Well, if we use an example, so if you've got a sale price of 650, for example, the tax threshold they said they'll put in at 500. Hypothetically, if it was a 1% tax rate, then the seller would have a £1,500 tax bill. So they would have a tax on selling from a stamp duty perspective of 1,500 quid, but also that gets added because they're going to be purchasing onward as well. You know, if they're upsizing, for example, they're going to pay a stamp duty tax on their upsize as well. So it's like a double hit if you're in a chain, if you're in the middle of the chain. I don't think that will have the biggest impact of the rumours that they're talking about in that market, in that middle family market, because stamp duty is quite high when you're going from a 650 house to a 900 house anyway, and it's another 1,500 quid. It's a bit of a sting, but it's not the end of the world. Where it gets a bit sticky is, let's say, for example, you're living in London, which is what it seems like they're sort of earmarking as a bit of a point to attack. Sale price 1.2 million, tax threshold 500 grand. If it was 2%, because we've got no ideas on the percentages, but if it was 2%, well, you're paying 2% on 700k. So your tax bill's 1,400 quid. Whether you're upsizing or moving out of London or not, just to sell, you've got a 14 grand tax bill there. So that's going to hit that sort of London and then the next ring around London that kind of, you know, you could call the home counties. But that'll be a tough pill to swallow. What do you think that would do? I mean, that 800, 900 grand market surely just comes to a bit of a standstill. And we've got a threshold scenario going on again, like the old 250 days, haven't we?
I mean, if they go back to that threshold scenario, then that's just going to limit the market. You know, that's not learning from previous mistakes, isn't it? I was having a conversation with somebody about this, about the need to generate more tax income. And his view on it was that they need more tax income. Property is massive accumulation of wealth for people, and actually, it's probably one of the fairest way to generate a new tax. However, whatever happens, if they do decide to tax on property, will impact the market. So my opinion on that, if you've got an increased 14 grand tax bill, whichever way they put it in, if they do it on sale or whatever, if they're looking at taxing property, they're going to restrict house price growth. And I think, like, in a way, I can kind of understand my friend's point that it's a fair way of doing it, because everyone gets the same. And if it's 14 grand, it just comes off at the other side. But where it gets more complicated is 14 grand cash. So if you are stepping up and trying to step up quickly, it doesn't just come off as 14 grand in the house price. It could come off as
60 grand buying power, isn't it?
Yeah. It's and that, I think, could be one of the mistakes that the government make in terms of thinking, well, it'll just limit house price growth. Well, it won't in that case. It will stagnate the market. I'm a very positive person, I like to think, but the budget has the potential to, you know, fuck up the market in a time, if we go back to the Right Move house price index, where it is quite unpredictable, and we're finding that we think the market is going really well one week and not the next. So actually, these conversations about taxing property at the moment are, you know, a source of fear as an estate agent, and I'm sure those are some of the reasons why the London market in particular, according to Rightmove, is operating differently to the market that I operate in here in the Northwest.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what they've done is they're really kind of cherry picking that baby bloomer generation. They realise that there's a lot of cash, taxable cash is the way they're looking at it, held in property. And they know that a lot of the baby bloomer generation have also got good saving pots. I mean, they're a cautious group, aren't they? You know, the typical kind of generational target was to work all your life, put money into your pensions. So that, most of the baby bloomer generation have got really strong pension levels. Pay off your debt. So most of them now are getting to the point where you're kind of mortgage free, and they're looking at that thinking, right, this is our angle to pull a lot of cash out of that generation. And yeah, I've run the report through AI before just to get a rough summary of what of the property equity is held in the baby bloomer generation, and it's somewhere between 55 and 60% of cash equity in the 9 trillion pound level of property pricing is held with the baby boomers in that generation. And I think that's probably what they're looking at, is how do we tax that stuff, basically. So it's not going to do what we want, which we want to entice them to downsize, right? Because we need the top of the chains on those family homes to make it work. We saw it with the last stamp duty holiday. The issue wasn't selling the properties up the chain. The issue was we got to the top of the chain and no one could find, because there was no benefit to the people that had got mortgage-free 4-bed detached, 5-bed detached homes downsizing. So they all stuck put, and the chains just got to the top, and it was like, okay, either we've got a new build site going on, which we could leverage, or we're a bit screwed. So that's an interesting one. The second stuff is, it's interesting how they phrase it, the removal of the capital gains exemption on primary residences over 1.5 million. Yeah. So they're almost suggesting at the moment there's an exemption on it. If you obviously make money on your property and it's now worth over 1.5 million. Again, this is very London market stuff, right? Yeah. But the examples are, for the estate agents listening, in just layman's terms, because I think it's quite interesting when you're on a valuation to talk about it. If you bought a townhouse, for example, in London in 2000 for 400 grand and it's now worth 2 million, you've made a 1.6 million gain, which is quite realistic in parts of London. So you're now taxable on the 100 grand over 1.5 million because you've made 1.6. Now, assuming that the capital gain stays the same, which is 24%, well, then in that case, you've got 100 grand that is taxable. So you've got a 24 grand capital gains tax bill. Where it gets horrible is some of the other parts of London where it's jumped up. So if you bought for 1 million, now selling for 3 million, the gain's 2 million, then again, you've got this taxable gain over the 1.5. That could be a 120 grand capital gains tax bill. So that's really specific for what we would call the premium market, the higher end market. But again, if that the amount of 1.53 million pound houses that just sat there vacant, who knows who owns them? They're not moving now, are they? So,
no, I was going to say, they just don't sell them, do they? That's what happens. That market just stop. And at the moment, you just stop and wait and see what happens tax wise in the future, because that's a massive, the removal of primary residence relief, or if they're calling it an exemption. Is it an exemption? Has it not just always been there? Is one of our things?
I don't know. They called it the exemption as if it's like something that they've done to encourage
ownership. Is that not one of the things that this country values really importantly? It's just like that. And they're talking about if it starts at the danger is if it starts at 1.5, like that in years to come, once you let something go, because even if the government continue to perform as they are and have to relinquish power sooner rather than later, the challenge that another government has got, whoever that might be, is reversing some of the tax decisions is very, very difficult and also pretty rarely done. Yeah. So actually, if we let we can't stop them, can we? But if the budget is as bad as some of the rumours that they're testing, aren't they? They're testing the water with all of these things. Which one gets the the worst reaction? But if they do things, they won't get reversed, and it will change the property market. And if they start to tax people on their primary residence, then that feels really like a very step change in the relationship between tax and property for me.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, because it's the taxable gain, that one. So that's what's interesting, is it's the taxable gain. So there could be some serious threshold changes there. The one that I kind of, out of the three of them, because the next one that there was rumoured is the tax bands. So they were talking about adding extra higher value tax bands, again, hitting that higher end of the market. But I kind of get this one, because the tax system at the moment is that it tops out at band H. So And this was from like 1991 that this was put in. So effectively, the valuations at that point was for houses that were over 320. They put a tax band on. Now things have moved on a little bit since 1991. So in its worst case scenario today, you could have someone that lives in a £5 million mansion on the outskirts of London. They're paying up to 4k in council tax, which is actually the same as me sat in, or someone sat in a 700 grand house effectively, which does feel wrong because there has to be a certain point where, I'm not in a mansion. This house is probably worth 875, 900, probably on the market 850. Just talked it up. But if we kind of look at that and think, right, well, I'm paying the same council tax as someone that's living on the Wentworth estate down, sort of half an hour up the road, and it's a 3, 4, 5, 10 million pound house, doesn't seem right. So that one I kind of get, that what they're talking about is adding bands I, J and K. So 3 extra revenues, which can't argue with that, right? It's something that probably needs to move on. If it's not been looked at since 1991, it probably needs a look at, I would say.
Yeah, but that's their own fault for not doing it sooner, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is an outdated thing. And maybe it was because of some of the controversy when it was introduced. But if they are, I thought it was more that they were looking at an annual tax and changing stamp duty and what have you. I thought that had been rumoured to have a tax based on the purchase price, but maybe it is that. The only challenge I would have with that policy is, are you not looking at just really screwing the same market of people based on the others? So we don't, these are all rumours, and we're talking about if buts and maybes here. But it's very interesting because these are the conversations that you could be having with clients. Are clients sitting on the fence to wait and see? Would they be better getting a sale agreed? Because we don't know anything about when they come in. Previously, they've made stamp duty changes immediately, but they've also made stamp duty changes in a few months. You still have the opportunity now, as we record this a month away, it'll be just under a month when we release this, but you still have an opportunity to get sale agreed before they may introduce it on if the sale was agreed or not. If you've got a sale agreed in the days leading up to the budget, make sure you get those memorandums out, because you never know. Is it going to be sale agreed? Is it going to be a point in time? By sitting and waiting, you'll be in a better informed position once it comes out. But that being in that better informed position might not be a good place to be either. So it's not going to be cheaper, is it, after the budget? No.
To sell it or buy. So the pipeline really, and there was another report that someone put out that estate agency pipelines are like redonkulous at the moment. They're massive. Sale agreed. It's not going to be cheaper in 4 months' time. It's either going to be the same, because we've got, like you said, this kind of date stop on it, which causes endless mentalness. Got to use that word more. And from our point of view, all we can do is say to our pipeline, just get completed if you can before the budget. Now, we are 5 weeks away. So if someone had sales memos out 2 weeks ago, really everyone should be able to get that done if there's pressure on both sides to do it. An 8-week exchange, if everyone is pressured on it, is pretty doable. Most mortgage offers at the moment are coming out 14 to 28 working days max, unless there's a problem. And surveyors are free to get booked in. If you need the survey, get it done at the start so there isn't a delay. But most surveyors are available within 2 weeks. Searchers, as long as you're getting them paid up front, really, if the pressure's there, 8 weeks to exchange is doable, as long as buyer and seller want to really jump on it, and they got to pull their weight and be proactive.
Yeah.
But if you just sit on it and let it roll to not exchange and not complete this side of the year, which could easily happen as well if you do fuck all, you could be in trouble financially. Yeah. You could be getting hit hard, and we just don't know, do we? So, and by the time it hits the end of November, I think it's the last week of November, it's sort of too late to do much about it, because solicitors pack up by about the 14th of December.
I I think there is a massive danger that this budget has the potential to affect pipelines.
Yeah.
Like no other, because of the talks. And we are talking, about rumours and potential here, but if they put the message out about changing property tax, then they are probably going to do something. I'd be really surprised if we sit there watching the budget and there's nothing on property. So if there's something on property, it has the effect to impact your pipeline. If you can take proactive action between now and then and get as many exchanges as possible, then that is absolutely what you need to be doing. And I think that needs to be a really proactive conversation with your clients, both buyers and sellers, because if they just whack a tax on it, then sales could just fall through. If you're going to get an extra 20 grand tax bill on sale, or your council tax is going to double, then that's going to affect your decision about whether you're going to purchase, particularly if the purchase has been going through for 12, 16 weeks and you've fallen out of love with the property a little bit. That's that buyer's remorse and then a bit more. So, yeah, I think the budget has got to be on the radar. Whilst I've been quite negative so far today, I'll always go back to, we can only control what we can control.
Yeah.
So whatever happens in the budget is outside of our control. But what we can do now is use it as a conversation piece to try and push through exchanges, to try and lessen the impact of what could be, a pretty catastrophic budget for the property market. So, and that's what we've got to do. We owe that to ourselves as business owners and professionals and our clients, because they might not read all of the articles that we read. They might not follow the news. They might not potentially know what the budget could look like for them. We've got to educate, as we talked about last week, with anything like this. One of our jobs is to educate them. And if they have the option to take action to prevent loss, then you absolutely have got to do it.
Yeah. I think that's again, it goes back to, I just remember when Avocado launched and we soft launched, and then 6 days we hit lockdown. Still to this day, the foundation reason why we were so successful quickly locally was because we became the news channel in lockdown on social media, where most agents were on furlough. And to be honest, most estate agents around here were like, carry on as normal. And it's like, well, you can't really do that because no one can even view a house. So don't try and paint over the cracks with an absolute load of, wally nonsense. And we were just honest. We were like, look, if this happens, this could happen. If this happens, this could happen. It's not normal. You can't view, this is where we're at. And then as we started to understand more about the economics with furlough, and we realized that the pipeline cash was just being held and it was going to explode. And then all of a sudden it was we were just the news channel, just opinion-led news. We weren't right on everything. We weren't wrong on everything. We just had an opinion on it. We didn't know, and we were honest about that. And people liked listening to it, and it grew our socials really quickly. And when there is a problem, or when there is negativity, or when there is a news, people want to know information. And they're either going to watch Sky or BBC News, or if it's more hyper-local and you're talking about, I live in Crowthorne, Sky are not talking about Crowthorne, but I can talk about Crowthorne. There's 5 Facebook groups. It's got about 100,000 people. There's only 4,000 houses in Crowthorne. So I could talk to a lot of people, hyper-local, very easily, for free, and give an opinion on it. And I'll split the market with that. But that's the really good thing that estate agents could be doing now, is split your market. Don't be scared to talk to whole of market. What's your target audience? Talk to that 60% of the market. And or if you're dealing with the higher end, talk to that 30% of the market potentially. It depends where you're at on it. But don't try and talk to everyone. That's the key thing here. So, yeah, it's a good opportunity is the way to look at it, isn't there? There's always, like you say, there's an opportunity in there for estate agents to do stuff. So one of the other points that I put on here was about awards. It's award season. Just seen the Esters blow up everywhere. Everyone's won a bloody Ester. From what I hear,
it was a bit like that yesterday.
From what I hear, that's the boozy event of the estate agency calendar. I know a couple of people that were there, and it looks like it's a really fun night, to be fair. I don't drink, so being drunk, having 500 or 250 estate agents around me that are absolutely off their noodle is just like my worst nightmare, which is why I don't go. But it looked like it was a fun event, and they do look like cool awards, like the actual Esther Awards themselves look quite cool. But I've got a certain sort of point on awards, and I'd love to get your point on it as well, see what you think, kind of, because you don't go to too many of these, do you? I don't think it's not your bag.
No. When we had the online agency and we were wanting to work with estate agents, we did, a bit of that, and we quite enjoyed it. But for me, it's a very expensive day out that doesn't necessarily reward the business. And I think that, some of the conferences, yes, really good. I'd rather go to the conference than the awards do. I'm quite happy to, have a few beers in the local pub with my mates rather than, that idea of estate agents. So no, they don't massively appeal to me. And one of the reasons is because I don't think the public when there's so many, I don't think the public necessarily think, oh, they're phenomenal because they've got this award. And I know that there are different awards, and depending on the agent that you speak to, you'll get a different opinion, but I don't particularly value them.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I see most of the call it brand awareness, if you like, or accolade of winning it, or the reputational part of being an award winner. I see most of it shared on personal accounts, personal social media accounts.
Yeah.
And especially on a knee jerk, like the next day. It's not very often the next day that I would see the brand celebrating to the public, talking to their clients. Great news. We won gold or whatever in this category. The brand's super proud of it. We spent a year working, we love our clients and we appreciate all the feedback. And this, I think in that case, Esther's is done on reviews, so thank you to all the positive reviews we've had, because it's made us the regional winner or whatever it may be. I don't see that message. I just see the kind of selfie with like Chris Watkins or something with the award and being like, "Hey, we won an Esther." And it's kind of, it's good to do that. Like, it feels nice for you, but it doesn't really help business. We've won one of the negotiator awards the last 2 years, and it is a nice feeling to go on stage and pick up the award. You do feel good for it. It's very expensive to go, like you say. It is very expensive to have a ticket. So if it's a cost and an investment, see it as a PR investment. And that's the thing that I think estate agents sometimes miss a trick on these, is it's a point of difference for your client. And you're right, the clients don't know. So it's your job, again, to educate them what it is and what it means and why you've won it. And then just use it and leverage it. We're in a group with Michelle, aren't we? From JD, and they use it fantastically well. They have done, ever since they won the EA Masters one. It's everywhere for the public to see. They're recognised now, as the Orange Award winners, aren't they? It's part of their brand and their identity almost.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Michelle, because that was exactly going to be my next comment, because she has been a fantastic advocate of the EA Masters, and I think Peter Knight would probably, say that they've promoted the award as much as the award has promoted them. But the reason that she's done that is for the benefit of the business. So yes, they won the award. They did fantastically well. They won it 2 years on the trot, but they leveraged it. And Michelle would be very honest with anybody who asked her this question, that they leveraged it to within an inch of its life. They absolutely squeezed every last drop of credibility that you could get out of an industry award. And yes, okay, people recognise that is the big one to win, or there is the perception that is the big one to win. The public don't know that. So the way that it was plastered all over the window, it was through all of their marketing. If you want any example of how to use an award for the benefit of the business, which effectively is what you're saying, it's expensive, but you've got to look at it as a PR investment if you that's what you want to do. But don't just post it the day after. Make sure that it then runs as a constant stream through your marketing strategy
Yeah.
to push that on everyone so everybody knows about it. My question to you would be this: what's more powerful then, winning the Esters, or having really strong Google reviews? I mean, I don't know if the two are linked. Actually, I don't know if you post to Esters and then it goes on to your Google review. But my perception on a lot of awards are that actually, when people Google you, and you can say, are they going to Google you or chat GPT you if you want in the future, but when people Google you, they're looking at those reviews. That's a massive important part of it. I don't know, maybe you can tell me whether that links with the Esters or not. I'm not sure.
I think the Esters, you need reviews through the Ester program that you pay for annually or monthly, but those reviews are Google reviews, so it's like a scrape slice off the top. I'm not in the Ester sort of scenario, so I don't know the details of it, but that's my understanding. It's Google reviews. Yeah, we used to have the all agents thing round here. That was one. Do you remember that? And you used to have to get the reviews in their program. And it was kind of just a bit fixed in the end, because whoever did the most volume had the most opportunity to get the most reviews. And if you were proactive with it, you could win it. But to answer your question, Google reviews are amazing, right? That you have to get, regardless of the size of the business, you need to get a handful of those a month, and if you're a big business, you need to get 20 odd of them on your Google My Business profile. But I do think marketing is about leveraging your message, ultimately. And if you don't have an identity as an estate agent, which a lot of them don't, a real strong brand identity, and you go in for one of these awards and you're either buying it or you're making it, or whatever. If you win it, credit to you, because you've done something really well. You've either been proactive for a whole year of getting reviews, or you put a really good submission in, or something else, right? But to use it in your brand identity as an award winner, especially if you look at the sort of marketing space or the personal brand space, it's a really good kind of social proof exercise to do. And you're totally right. You can leverage that for the whole year. So I think if you get the PR and the marketing right, it can be a really important scenario to have, especially if you're hyper local and the local estate agents haven't won an award. Then all of a sudden I'm in Crowthorne again. I become the award winner in Crowthorne. Now there's none of the local agents in Crowthorne are sharing that they've won any industry awards recently. So, if I'd won an Ester or a negotiator award or whatever, I'm going to bang that everywhere, Facebook groups. And don't forget, I'm Crowthorne's only winner of the blah, 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 blah. And it becomes my identity. And that's a powerful thing to have. So yeah, it's just a reminder to the estate agents, go in for the awards, win them, enjoy it, enjoy the night, but remember who the award is for. For the public. It's for your business. It's for your PR. It's not for you. Celebrate it for 24 hours, 48 hours and enjoy it, because it feels good going up on stage. I've done it and it feels great. But then get to work with your playbook, PR, newsletter, local press, social media campaigns. Get your marketing team to do an interview with you as the founder or the owner. How does it feel? What does it mean? Kind of that post football interview with the interviewer. Just get that playbook of why, who, what, when, and how. And I think that will make a big difference to your brand identity, I would say.
Yeah, I wonder how many people that win those awards sit down the next day and come up with a strategy for it. Because that's, as you say, we're into award season. Hopefully that advice for any of the people that are entering or winning the awards, that is a very valuable piece of advice. Sit down, plan it out, and run it through all of the marketing. Because at the end of the day, if you do that, it will make you more likely to win it next year as well, I would suggest.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can just get chat to do it, right? It's like pretty easy. You just get chat to give you the playbook on it. And you can even get chat to redesign, your tagline if you wanted to. Yeah. So yeah, if you wanted to use AI on that basis, it's probably a good place to go. So yeah, award season. I do love seeing it though. It's nice to see. It seems to be the same faces every year. And I think that's a good thing, because they're the ones that are really putting the effort in to try and pick it up. It's just making sure they use it as a point of difference. So, yeah. The other topic that we had that we sort of deep dived on was new first-time buyers. Now, I know you can't get old first-time buyers, but
aren't they getting older?
Well, getting older, but the demographic, the group has changed, and an old first-time buyer that bought 10 years ago, to use the term of phrase, has got a very different motive to the new first-time buyer, which is the first-time buyers that are buying at the moment, according to quite a few little, these are more public articles, national press articles than they are industry ones. But I just thought it was an interesting topic. Effectively, the headline of the news article is that new first-time buyers buying at the moment, are buying with an economical motive, a financial motive, and they're instantly overpaying on their mortgages. They're instantly setting themselves up to get the mortgage paid down. Whereas I think me and you would agree, first-time buyers of 5 years ago, 10 years ago, pre-COVID, maybe pre-lockdown, they were stretching. Can I get 35? Can I get a 40-year term? How do I make it as cheap as possible? And how do I get as much house as possible? Whereas the new first-time buyers seem to be looking at things a little bit differently. And I thought that's quite interesting, actually, because, again, for us as estate agents, are we talking to our clients, our buyers, with the right motives? Potentially we've sort of missed that trend that's changed. So I thought I'd just raise it on the pod and get your take on it as well.
It's really interesting that there is a bit of a change in the way that people view debt is probably that they want to get rid of the debt really quickly to buy themselves financial freedom to travel the world or do whatever they want to do. And maybe the property, spending an extra 20 grand on a property isn't as important now as it was for somebody 10 years ago. So as agents, we would always try and stretch their budget. Whereas actually what you're saying is, whilst we might still want them to stretch the budget, we're less likely to achieve that because they're more wedded to a certain plan that is pay the mortgage off quickly, overpay on the mortgage. I also wonder if part of that may have come from if they were renting previously, rents being higher than mortgage rates. If they're used to paying 1,500 quid a month on rent and their mortgage is 1,200, why would they step back down? Why not, keep it at 1,500? So I wonder if that's an aspect to consider on that. But I think it's really important that we look at these little bits of news that, I wasn't aware that this was, a phenomenon that was taking place. But actually, I'm probably going to speak to a couple of first-time buyers and find out what their intentions are. Are they looking at a 25-year mortgage or are they looking at a 35-year mortgage? And because that was the trend, as you say, people were pushing the boundaries. But I think as agents, it's just well worth noting and then canvass the opinion of first-time buyers that you speak to, because we're all speaking to them on a daily basis. These are the people that will generate the bottom end of the market that will hopefully be least affected by any of the budget stuff that we discussed earlier. So we should be learning what their goals are. It's like anything, your client, isn't it? Right, what are your goals? I want to buy a house at 200,000 now, but paid off in 15 years, or I want to buy the best house that I can buy. They are two very different motivations, and I wonder how much COVID has played into it, and the savings ability, and all of those changes that happened through that period. But the thing is, if first time buyers are paying off the mortgages sooner, they're doing it to buy themselves financial freedom, and then maybe it's retirement, maybe it's traveling. Who knows?
The retirement thing in the generation sort of late teens into early 20s. The big thing that they're really pushing for at the moment, a lot of that generation, is this early retirement focus. They really want to be retired early. It's a big driver. And then I saw was it an article? Yes, I read an article that was about, so the generation above us, our parents, if you like, their kind of standpoint was work hard, money into pension, pay off debt, and then enjoy retirement. And what it kind of said is our generation are doing big flamboyant holidays, big excursions, big trips, because what we've seen is the generation above us, they've done that, and then they don't have the energy to travel the world. They're not realizing the full potential of their retirement in their 70s. And we see that as a way of actually, we would rather spend a lot of our pension money, our retirement money now experiencing and traveling with our kids and stuff like that. That's our generation. And the generation below us has gone, well, actually, we don't want to work to travel. We want to retire early and then be free to do whatever the fuck we want. And you can see that in the first time buyer market, where actually maybe they're going, yeah, I want to be able to kind of drop and roll as quickly as possible. And the house to me is a standpoint, but it's not the home is the castle sort of mentality anymore. It's more, that's a location, a fixed statement, almost, because it's so difficult to find a rental property. So I kind of do that, but on a small scale, so that I can be financially as free as possible, basically. So it's quite interesting, but it's a different way of talking to your first time buyers, because asking them the right questions to understand their motivations, because it would appear that the trend has changed to what it used to be, which is I want as much house as possible that I can afford. Basically, I'm going to stretch myself. No longer does that seem to be the driving force. So interesting thought to think about, especially if you're in a high first time buyer market, probably the opposite of the London market that we were just talking about. If you're in the other markets, understanding your buyer motivation is really, really important, I think. So yeah, just found that quite interesting. I like a trend.
Yeah, and it's definitely not something that I'd experienced, but maybe now I'm aware of it. We'll have those conversations with the team and find out and just canvass those opinions, because you're right, it's only just a slight change in the language that you use or the way that you're speaking to clients, but sometimes it's just those slight changes that we need to increase connection, make more sales, perform better as a business. And that's ultimately what we want to do each and every week when we do this pod. We if we can give some little advice that can help agents, then that's what it's all about. I think we're probably wrapping up there. We haven't talked specifically about the Rightmove house price index, but it's run through kind of a lot of the conversation that we've looked at. We'd love to hear people's experience if they are talking to loads of first-time buyers, or if they've got any particular thoughts on the budget. And obviously, we will dissect that in a month or so's time, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. No, hopefully people got some value, and we'd love opinions. We've got some face-to-face bookings coming up, haven't we, that we're going to do as well on the podcast. So if you'd like to join us somewhere in the Midlands, venue to be confirmed. But if you think you've got some really good value or a specific topic in particular that you want to jump on and talk about, drop us a DM and we'll see if we can get you on the live show potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And the book is nearing completion, so keep an eye out for that over the next few weeks when that drops. Us some exciting news coming from the podcast. As you know, we do this because we love our industry. We want to see it and improve and get better. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please share it out on social media, share it with colleagues. Thank you very much to Iceberg Digital for sponsoring today's episode. I'm Mark Worrall. He's Ian Macbeth. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you again next week.